Welcome to X's and O's new segment here on the Zone. My name is Andrew Weidinger. Each and every week, we'll be taking a look at different plays that are being run around the NFL and why they're working. What are offenses doing to attack defenses? What are defenses doing to slow down those offenses? We had a great slate of games this first week of the NFL season. Let's jump right into it. We've got Chargers and Chiefs. The Chargers are running one of my favorite plays of all time, and all it is a deep cross. You can see they're taking the receiver, motioning him down. They're going to get him in a position to help with the protection. We'll talk about that in a minute. On deep cross, you have a deep crossing route, typically trying to enter the paint of the numbers on the opposite side of the field at 18 to 22 yards. Anytime you run deep cross, you can run it one of three primary ways. You can run it to a go route. You can run it to a receiver who's running a big post route. Or in the case of the Chargers here, you can run it to a receiver who's running a pylon route. A pylon route stems down into the alley. The alley is the space between the numbers and the hash, usually about 12 to 15 yards, then takes a high angle, ripping out of there towards the pylon in the end zone. And based on where you are on the field, it's either the front pylon or the back pylon. Chargers motion the receiver down. You can see Herbert jumps into the gun. We'll talk about that in a minute, why he may have done that here. This is a play action pass. All right, now it's a token fake. Okay, but you can see here McConkey, his job is to get into the secondary as fast as he possibly can. He stems down, pushes his hash. You can see he goes about 15 yards. He crosses three white lines. Some guys coach it that way, cross three lines, and takes it across the field, catching that ball about 18, 19 yards right there, just past the paint of the numbers. Pretty good. They happen to catch a quarters defense, meaning the defense is playing the defensive secondary. Each of these defenders has 1/4 of the field. This pylon route comes down. It grabs the attention of the quarter safety. He says, hey, if this guy works vertical in the alley, I got to cover him. This corner starts laddering up and getting depth. He knows if this guy comes back outside, it's his to cover. The only guys who could possibly take this route away are the underneath zone defenders, and McConkey knows that they're getting great depth. I, too, have to get great depth. Here they're not. Here they're kind of settling. McConkey's free to come a little flatter across the field. Big explosive gain. Up front, we'll take a look from behind. As you can see, they've motioned the receiver down, putting him in a position to chip this defensive end. Tight end over here, he's already in a position to chip this end. The most dominant players on the field. This is where you want them if you're coaching defense. You have got to slow these guys down and be aware of where they are at all times on offense. So they're going to get extra chips by these two edge protectors. The offensive line is sliding to the right. That means that these three linemen have these two defensive line and this linebacker. On this side, these linemen have these two defensive linemen, which puts the running back here and here. Well, number 32, Nick Bolton, he's starting to get up into the line of scrimmage as Herbert's giving his fake cadence. Herbert's worried. What if he blitzes? If he blitzes in that A gap and I'm standing under center and the guy who has to block him is coming from behind me, it's going to be really hard for him to get around me and get that block. So Herbert says, hey, let's play it safe. Let's get in the gun. If he's blitzing, it's going to be much easier to pick him up. They go with the play action fake. You can see they get the chips on both sides. Chip and head to the flat. Tight end chips, heads over the ball to try to affect and hold these guys down. The running back fakes and goes through. McConkey and the pylon route in behind. They create three levels on this side of the field between the pylon, the deep cross, and the chip flat. Great job here by the Chargers. All right, so you run it, you like it, you come back in the third quarter, you say we want to run it again, but we don't want to show it to him the exact same way. Take a look. They motion in this case now. Remember last time the receiver motioned from out to in. Now they start in a bunch and motion the receiver across. They're doing the same thing, different protection here. They've got an outside zone cell. They're going to get their chip and head to the flat. But in this case, they're going to bring the tight end across, slice him across, and he's going to end up blocking the end after he's been chipped. The offensive line is going to give a much better run cell here because this is a run play action pass, but they still have their pylon. They still have their deep cross. They've taken the exact same play, dressed it up another way. I'm a huge fan of doing this. What a great way to get back to something you like. In this case, now let's take a look at McConkey. He gets man coverage against man coverage. You got to get this guy running. You got to get him pushed vertical. You got to get his hips open so that he has to run. And then you want to break it off and you want to bring it real flat when you break it off. Look at that. What an unbelievable job coming flat and then friendly back to the throw. Let's go ahead and jump over here to the Niners and the Seahawks. Another play, 2 ways to run this play. You can see the Niners go with a little fast motion. They're going to bring this guy here into the flat. The receiver is going to run an in cut in this case. Okay. And then we're going to watch Kyle Juszczyk here. He's going to chip the defensive end and then he's going to run a wheel route into the void that's created here. You can see again on this zone defense, this quarters defense, or version of quarters on the front side, at least by the Seahawks. The receiver, just like we saw that pylon route, is going to take 2 guys out of this play. He's going to take the corner, run him to the safety, and try to get their attention and get them away from where they really want the ball to go. This fast motion coming out here and settling in the flat, the goal is to affect this curl defender, this curl flat defender. He's dropping out and says that, oh shoot, this guy is open. I got to come down and cover him. The next underneath zone defender is the hook dropper. He's sitting inside. Well, he loses sight of Juszczyk, who gets the chip, and you can see Juszczyk runs right into the void. Great story, Kyle Juszczyk, 12-year NFL vet. When he was a rookie coming out of Harvard, I was responsible for evaluating fullbacks. I was part of a team responsible for evaluating fullbacks. At the time, we had an absolute bruiser named Ovi Muheli. I said, I don't think that Juszczyk can really play the fullback position in the NFL. Here he is 12 years later. He's made $1 bajillion playing football, and I'm just talking about it. So things worked out pretty good for him, and I think we all know what ended up happening with me. Did some digging, 2013 eval, potential fullback coming into the NFL, Kyle Juszczyk. All right, yeah, I was wrong, but I wasn't that far off. I said he's got a long way to go as a blocking fullback. That's kind of true. We were a downhill, ground and pound type system. You'd have to have a plan to take advantage of his skills. Obviously, the 49ers did and have done a great job with it. Square peg to our round hole offensive system. He didn't fit for us, but fit for them. I can envision him playing an H-back or F tight end role, a receiving tight end role in the NFL. There you have it. Yeah, okay. On the whole, I was wrong, but the good news is they didn't pay me very much money to be wrong. Do you have any idea how much these NFL GMs are getting paid to be wrong all the time? I was cheap. All right, a quick look at the protection right here. Great chip to slow down. Again, we got to slow down those ends. Good chip to slow him down. Lets that guard now, the pulling guard, show up. Reason teams do this is to try to hold these inside linebackers down. The puller is telling them, ooh, it looks like run. I got to step down to stop the run. Nope, gotcha. All right, and then Juszczyk turns on the jets, gets into the void. Great job. Now, this play, no different than this touchdown here to Travis Kelce. I say no different. Same principle. You can see they're using the fast motion. The Chiefs are using fast motion right here. Again, the same idea. We're going to get him into the flat and try to affect that curl flat defender. We got a little chip right here. I'm not totally sure what they're doing in protection. All right, but you can see now they're going to run a fake screen to number 24 coming in motion. Kelce's going to sell the screen, and then he's going to run the rail right here. He's got the hands up, selling screen. Kind of looks like Frankenstein doing it. I'm a little bit more of a fan of, have a little more showmanship to it. Kind of just a subtle shift of the weight in the arms. But hard to argue with this. Works himself open. Curl flat defender goes down. Hook defender steps up. Hit it in behind. Touchdown. Let's take a quick look at the protection right here. You can see Mahomes on this play. He's running for his life to the field. They're in empty protection, 5-man protection. The last couple protections we saw, they had 6 guys in pro, sometimes 7 with those extra chippers. Here it's just 5. They have to block the 5 most dangerous. They end up getting a corner blitz off the slot. This was a Liz by the offensive line. They're all working left. These 2 linemen have these 2 defensive linemen, but their original alignment, the original linebacker they were working to is this guy right here. He slides into the box, and the tackle loses sight of that corner outside. You can see Mahomes says, uh-oh, I see him blitzing. I see that my tackle has lost sight of that corner with the motion. because he thought that they were working to this backer. I'd better get the heck out of here. Does a great job of getting that ball out of there before he gets blasted. Moving into the Ravens and Bills game. Ravens fans, I know you're terrified. I know things didn't go so hot there at the end, but don't worry. This run game is rolling. They are going to be just fine. Todd Monken, offensive coordinator, George Warhop, offensive line coach, guys I worked with in Tampa. They've got it schemed up and rolling, and it's much easier when Lamar Jackson's your quarterback to scheme things up. Here we get the fast motion from Zay Flowers, and they run to the perimeter. They're arcing the back outside for the first defender out there, and the quarterback is going to read this defensive end. Risky business. Anytime that you have a quarterback who can run, you want to take advantage of that skill set, but every time he gets hit, he's one step closer to being out, and when he's out, your season might be over. Here they're reading this defensive end. If they can hand to Flowers and get outside, they will. If the end goes up the field and takes him away, Lamar Jackson's going to keep, and they're running quarterback power. You can see they're blocking back, they're chucking, they're deucing to number 58, and they're going to pull for this front side linebacker spot, and they're going to read the end. Everybody's reading the end. Now, the end ends up getting in the way of the puller, but by virtue of him collapsing, they're going to hand it to Flowers. One play here, but it's got two options, a read option run, extremely difficult to defend. The reason being, offensively, you now have 11 guys versus on a non-quarterback run, you really only have 10 because the quarterback hands it off and he's not doing anything. But if he has the ability to keep the ball, it creates significant problems for the defense. You might remember this little toss play right here to Derrick Henry for a nice little 30-yard touchdown. What an unbelievable job. Derrick Henry might be as old as I am. That guy can still move, and he's the largest human being I think I've ever seen. So they've got a little toss crack. Traditional toss crack has pullers. Right here, they're going to crack down on the defensive end. The tackle is going to step down and through for number 8 right here. Number 8 had a couple of tough reps in this game. Let's keep an eye on him, see how he progresses throughout the season. The fullback's going to come out, and he's got the first player that shows up in the alley. I don't know if you remember on that wide view there was a receiver here who motioned out away from the formation. That helps loosen the edge a little bit so that he can get the corner blocked, and they're going to end up running on this safety right here. These two linemen working vertical, and they're going to pick off number 58. They got great angles to get to him, and they're going to be the backside to get to number 24, who's got to work over the top if he wants anything to do with his play, and they will leave the weak side defensive end here unblocked. Great job by Ronnie Staley right here, getting across number 91's face, getting him cut out of that gap. Really well done. Good job by this tackle, stepping down and working vertical. Tight end does a good job getting the pin. Fullback comes around, kicks out the outside linebacker spot, and Derrick Henry does the rest. Whew. Bounces 24's head off the turf like a basketball. All right, now this is just a thing of beauty right here. They're running stretch force to the nub side, a nub side being just a tight end over there. All right, so stretch force puts the fullback on the safety spot. Tight end's going to come out and block the Sam. We're reaching. These guys are going to single up to number 8, and then we're going to scoop the backside to number 58. This is unbelievably well done. Look at this little scoop right here. Ooh, collapses the shoulder with the backside arm. 58 has no chance. They catch the Bills in a blitz off the edge. Somebody has to be in this A gap. I don't know who it is. My guess is here. All right. Never forget, we don't know, right? We are not in the Bills meeting room. We have no clue what went right or what went wrong. We're just guessing, but somebody has to be in this A gap. You can see with that A gap that open, number 8 here can feel all this space. He has to get to the front side of this play. All right, they're blocked there. They're blocked there. Fullbacks coming through for there. They're blocked there. Somebody has to show up in this space here, vicing the fullback. Doesn't make it and gets hammered by that center. Great job by the center. Derrick Henry says, well, if I'm going to have a hole that big, this is almost too easy. Off and running. Ooh, looks like a beer came in out of the stands. That's classy. Stay classy, Buffalo. All right, now let's take a look one more time here. Last quarterback run that we're going to look at. Again, Zay Flowers in motion. This is not an option to him now. This is just an option between the quarterback and the running back. Again, they're going to read the defensive end. We got one of the Bosa brothers, whichever one ended up in Buffalo. I don't know. Nick, Joey, whatever. All right. They're reading him. If he's up the field, they're going to hand to the running back. And if he collapses down, Lamar Jackson's keeping it. They're going to bait him into coming down by bringing the tight end back across the formation. A lot of times when the tight end comes back, he comes back to block this guy. And this guy says, oh, shoot, they're creating an extra gap over here. I got to get inside of it. When that happens, he goes to that inside gap. These three guys, they have to adjust their gap responsibilities too. An extra gap's been created over here. So these backers, they got to fall back and fit the gaps differently than they would have if they hadn't gotten this slice by the tight end. You can see Bosa comes chasing hard down the line of scrimmage. Lamar Jackson sees it. He keeps. The slice block turns into a what we call a slap block. Slicing for the alley player goes right around that defensive end for the first guy who shows up in the alley. Happens to be number 8, who recognizes, oh, they got the slicer. I need to change my gaps. Tackle's not able to get to him because he does such a good job of recognizing, but that's why that slapper is there. Puts hands on him. It's over. In the end zone. Touchdown. Now, with all that said, the Ravens had this game won, but that leads us to our play of the week. Take a look. Bills finding a way to pull this one out.
Ravens up 20-10 on the Bills, 13 seconds on the clock and ticking. Bills just hit a big scramble drill to get the ball across the 50. Josh Allen spikes it. 7 seconds left in the half. No timeouts. Bills' next play has to be either in the end zone or they got to get about 10 yards and out of bounds to get into a manageable field goal situation. All right, the Bills are coming out. They're anticipating that they're probably going to get some sort of coverage that defends the sideline, what we used to call blanket. Blanket puts these defenders on the sideline, builds a blanket on the perimeter of the field, forces you to throw it into the middle. Ball's completed. Everybody converges on the ball, tackles you, time runs out. All right, you can see here now Josh Allen pointing to the sky. He's checking the play. They have not gotten the blanket. Had they gotten the blanket, what I believe was about to happen is this guy was going to come block right here. This receiver going to block this guy, and this receiver going to block him. They were trying to run Dalton Kincaid across the field along with a shallow cross. Allen's going to hit whichever one is open, and they're going to try to get in between these blocks and out of bounds to get those yards and attempt the field goal. Now they come out and they do not get blanket. They get outside leverage man by all of these underneath defenders. They have 3 extra help defenders deep to help get the ball on the ground or help defend against the Hail Mary. And they also have 2 guys playing the sticks at 10 yards with their eyes inside, looking for those crossers, looking for exactly what they think the Bills are going to do, try to get 10 and out of bounds. These guys are in a perfect spot to stop that. Allen's checking the play. He's telling these guys, look, it's man. We've got to run them off. All 3 receivers, run them off. Kincaid still has the deep cross, and we still have the shallow cross by the outside receiver. Take a look at Kincaid here. Free access to the inside because it's an outside leverage defender. Pushes him up the field nice and vertical, forces his hips open, pushes him off right as he's at the break point, comes flat across the field. Great job making the catch, getting out of bounds. Take a look right here, 53. He's supposed to be waiting to take away this exact thing. He sees the shallow cross and steps down, losing sight of Kincaid in behind him. Number 0 right here, Keon Coleman, great job. He sees that this corner has vision inside because the leverage puts his hands on him just to slow him down just enough. Allen rips it in there. Big gain, puts him into field goal range. Matt Prater comes in essentially off the couch, drills it, ends up being a 1-point game, and that's 3 points right there. Really well done by the Bills.